This week in MS Refresh, security and compliance is now called Microsoft Purview. And we've got dates for when Microsoft Loop makes its way to Outlook officially, plus something a little different for this episode. Subscribe to stay in the know. This is the MS Refresh Show. Hi there, and welcome to the Matt and Sean 365 Refresh Show. This is episode 59 for the work week of April 25th, 2022. That's too many 20s. Coming to you from the East Coast, my name is Matt Wade.
And as always from the West Coast, I'm Sean Bugler. Matt, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing peachy, man. How are you?
I'm living the dream. That's enough small talk. Let's get into the news.
Yeah, we got a couple interesting things that have popped up for the news this week. So what's something that you saw that you wanted to mention real quick?
Yeah, so one of the things that I enjoy most about Twitter is that most people do my job for me, and that they dig through the message center, they dig through the roadmap, and they now at us. This is my favorite part of doing this, is now people like tag us on Twitter, and they're like, hey, are you going to talk about this? And I am now. But one of the things that was really interesting, this just showed up in the message center 5 or 6 days ago. We've got updated dates on Loop components in Outlook Mail. So this is exciting. So Loop components, for those of you who don't know, are those live interactive component, those objects that you can embed into, currently Teams chats. That's kind of about it. What are the use cases? Checklists, tables. The whole idea is that they're mutually collaborative. They're that dynamic real-time feel without having to, worry about versioning and things to that effect. We've got updated dates on it. So Outlook is going to be picking up that functionality, according to the Message Center, in targeted release for the web and Windows Desktop current channel, or preview as was formerly known, in early May. And that targeted preview release is going to be wrapping up in late May. And then general availability, Matt, you'll love this, right after, Outlook for the web and Windows Desktop are expected to pick that up in June. So yeah, it's finally happening. It's about time.
I'm impressed that the desktop app is going to get it, because I feel like the Outlook desktop app always gets things like 6 to 18 months later than the web app. So it seems like they're...
Now, it wouldn't be us if we didn't mention there's no word about Mac. There's no word about macOS, which I presume means they're just assuming it's going to launch with, the web or something.
We'll be there.
But that's good. I mean, we mentioned this, somebody mentioned in the comments a couple weeks ago why we hadn't talked about Loop. Is it still out there? When's the desktop app coming? All good questions. But the reason I don't talk about it a ton is because my organization doesn't really use Teams. We use Slack, but we do use Outlook really heavily. And so this is where it'll kind of crack the veneer. It's going to start to poke its head up in my organization when it starts to show up in Outlook. So I'm excited. I think this is going to be good.
I'm curious. Do you think that the benefit of Loop is going to bring you heathens into Microsoft Teams more because it will support Loop in Teams, or do you think the Loop is just going to be seen as an Outlook feature?
I think our internal positioning is going to be that this is an Outlook feature. I think by and large, and I know that the mothership in Redmond would love for this to be the Trojan horse that brings people in.
Bring people from Slack.
But I'm optimistic, particularly if the desktop app continues to be a reality, that they're pushing towards, that this is going to be something that's useful, whether or not you're deeply embedded in the Teams platform. So I'm hopeful that'll continue to be the case.
Yeah,
because at the end of the day, you do have to trust organizations to make decisions that are best for them. I hope this is not just going to be another thing.
I don't trust you people to make the best decision that's best for you.
But yeah, we'll continue to keep an eye on that and see what's what. Matt, what's showing up on your side of the fence?
Well, just unhappily, I've been dragged into the whole security compliance realm of M365. I don't like any part of it. I want nothing to do with it, but it just happens to be one of those things that I've been tasked with, with one client, 2 clients, whatever. And it's useful, but it's just so boring to me. But for those of you out there that do have to use it on a regular basis, you probably already know this at this point, that Microsoft Purview is now a thing. So if you've been using things like the Compliance Center or Microsoft Information Protection, which there's even experiences that are still called Azure Information Protection, all those things have been moved over to something now called, under an umbrella brand called Microsoft Purview. So like MIP is now Microsoft Purview IP, so MPIP. The Compliance Center, M365 Compliance Center, is now MPCP. So there's a whole bunch of things here to know about. The messaging was actually pretty good. I was pretty impressed by this. And actually, like immediately after the announcement, this was updated within my compliance center, definitely, and other user experiences that would reference some of these security and compliance features. So if you're not familiar yet with Purview, get used to it, get ready for it, and know that it is now here and that a lot of the names for things have changed. So change your internal documentation, your SOPs, fill in the blank on the resources that you might have there. So that's what I got. I think, Sean, did you have one last quick one?
Yeah, so this is exciting. This just came across my radar before we came online. I don't know, for those of you who watch the show, you may not know this or not, but Matt and I use Macs. We're very much team macOS. I don't think we've mentioned that before, have we?
Maybe once.
Maybe. But in the off chance you didn't know, we do. Microsoft just announced that Microsoft Teams Preview with support for the new Apple Silicon infrastructure is coming online. So that's exciting. It's going to be in preview. It's going to be available. I want to say it's available now. If it is, we'll drop a link in the show notes.
You know what's funny about that is that the non-Silicon version of Teams works better on my Silicon Mac than Teams does on Windows. So just saying. Microsoft Office has always had the best user experience on Apple, and it's been that way since 1983. So
we continue to hope that the next iteration of Microsoft Teams will have memory management about on par with Google Chrome.
Yes. Setting that bar. All right. So this brings us to a new segment that we are sort of experimenting with. And we wanted to take the opportunity to bring in some people, because it's not just the two of us that talk about or know any of the things out there in the Microsoft 365 world. So we are playing around with the idea of bringing a person in to interview, talk to about some community efforts and other really cool things to know about within the Microsoft sphere. And Sean, I'm going to kick it back to you so you can give a little bit of introduction to our first guest.
What?
You
didn't. You have to tell me that we're doing these things. Oh, hang on.
It's my cat. Hold on, I'm gonna bring her over. I'll go get her real quick. Yeah.
I see now. You sent me a card.
What is this, SNL? I have to hold up the cue cards for you now.
Our inaugural guest is a newly minted senior program manager at Microsoft for Power Apps. He's a former Office development MVP, a team member of the M365 platform community, and, I'm told, a football helmet aficionado. David Warner, welcome to the show. Oh, let me add you.
You have to add him to stream.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. I'm not quite as furry as Matt's cat, but I can try to purr for you while we're on the call.
She just yawned, so you're doing better than her so far.
All right, excellent.
Well, David, thanks for being here. We appreciate you being our first guest. We know this is a leap of faith. We promised there would be only 2 gotcha questions.
All right, yeah, thanks. That's awesome to be the first. I appreciate it. Yeah.
So, David, as we mentioned on the outset, you're newly part of Microsoft now. Congratulations on the new job, by the way. Senior Program Manager at Microsoft for Power Apps. What does that mean?
Well, kind of has an internal name, Community Program Manager. Really, it's looking to care for the community. So thinking about super users, community members, community call, anybody who really wants to get involved in the community, I'm here to support that and help that. We just had the Power Apps community call last week. It's a once a month call. We actually rebranded it immediately to be a wider spectrum of the Power Platform, because really we want to be inclusive. And so my job is to lower barriers, provide entry points for anyone in the community that wants to be part of it, to do more, to learn more, to engage more, whether that means they want to be a first-time speaker on the call, whether that means they want to submit samples that they've created. I'm here to open doors and help anyone and everyone get more out of this community that is available to them.
We lost you.
It would help if I unmuted.
There you go.
That's really cool, and I appreciate you sharing that. Now, so if I'm getting this right, you kind of operate as a bridge between the community and Microsoft in that sense. Yeah. From the messaging standpoint, from the product development standpoint, is that a fair kind of assessment of what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So working with the MVPs, working with the super users on the community platform, or anyone. Like I said, we want to be as inclusive as possible. We don't want it to feel like it's a click, or you have to be some level of contributor to be involved. Really, there's an opportunity for anyone and everyone to contribute to the community and be involved. And everyone's got a superpower to be involved in the community. It's just about finding yours, and I'm here to help with that.
That's awesome. So David, as you mentioned, as we'll mention again, you spent a long time in the community from the outside, just as kind of an engaged contributor. It's how Matt and I both know you. I've had the pleasure of running into you, plenty of places. It's always been a nice surprise. Uh, where do you see this new role of yours plugging into the community? You kind of alluded to it a little bit as serving as, this door opener to lowering the threshold. But where do you see that today in terms of what your role is, and where do you kind of hope that progresses?
Yeah, good question. So, I mean, it's not much different than what I was doing as an MVP in a limited role. Really about opening doors for everyone, whether that means they want to get more involved in in-person events as we kind of hopefully get out of this pandemic, or whatever the new normal is, return to in-person events. Whether you want to get more involved in virtual events, whether you just want to contribute samples, whether really it's such a wide spectrum of opportunity in the community. And there's a lot of overlapping technologies too, but also it moves really fast, right? As we all know, the technology consumption is like a fire hose, and trying to keep up can be difficult. So really trying to find ways to help everyone in the community, whether you're an MVP, a super user, you're just joining the product from an introductory perspective, there's a place for you. If you want to learn more, if you want to collaborate with others, really creating opportunities for everyone to be involved.
That's fantastic. I appreciate that. Now, there was a pretty exciting announcement, Matt.
Yeah. So, David, you and I bumped into each other at the M365 conference in Vegas earlier this month. Was it that recently? Oh my God. It seems like this has been just a crazy month. But one of the cool announcements that came out of that was that there is going to be a new event, in-person event, to cover a lot of the stuff that you're talking about. You want to kind of dive into that and what we can look forward to, what to expect, and who's it for, and what's the takeaway going to be?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's the Power Platform Conference. It's going to be in Florida in September, entitled Empower Everyone. So I'll let you do the math on the wording there. We really are excited because it is in person. And so Matt, you and I were both at that conference in Vegas, the M365 conference in Vegas. We were also at the one in December. I would say, and I know we had talked about this a number of times, that the energy level differential between those two events was a light years away in terms of so much more excitement and energy in this last one, just because it felt like we were getting back to normal. A lot of that had to do with being able to take the masks off and see a person smile as you walk by them in the hallway. That small amount of interaction, being able to have those side conversations after a session, engage with the speakers, things that are just really hard to do virtually, were all on display, feeling familiar. It was exciting. Felt like we were getting back to what we all love, which is these in-person events. So here we are. We're a few months away from the first ever United States-based Power Platform Conference in September in Orlando. And it's really going to be a lot of fun. It's Universal Studios there, right? So you're going to see some movie themes, maybe a little Marvel-esque, maybe a little Harry Potter-ish. We're going to have a lot of fun there, and there's some things that we're going to be planning for everyone that will cover the Power Platform space, but show a lot of overlaps as well.
So my takeaway is that you're going to be giving out free butterbeer. Is that correct?
We'll see. We'll see.
No spoilers.
Hashtag.
That's exciting, though. No, absolutely. So you talked about this as the first United States-based Power Platform kind of focused conference, which is exciting. What would you say in your head as you're kind of thinking through what this is supposed to be from your perspective? I don't want to say this. Who do you think this is for? Is this for the pro dev individual? Is this for the administrator of the Power Platform? Is this for the executive who's thinking about whether they want to buy another set of per user licenses for Power Apps or Power Automate? Who is this for, David?
D, all of the above, right? Really is what you're going to look at. So there's going to be a call for speakers. We can share the link, aka.ms/ppc-cfs, right? So the community call for speakers is open. So It's a Power Platform conference. No surprise, there's going to be a focus on Power Platform. The team that I comprise of is with Anna Chu, who covers Power Automate and Power Virtual Agents. Kelly Kay covers Power BI. Pedro Sacramento covers Dynamics 365, and we all report to Heather Newman, which is our boss and extraordinaire for Power Platform. We're all going to have a hand in that, and really the focus is to ensure that Power Platform is front and center. That being said, Microsoft is a broad umbrella of technologies. That includes SharePoint, Teams, Microsoft Lists, Viva. And as much as there is a passion and love around sole Power Platform products, they all have overlapping circles. And when you think about real world use case where clients are looking to put into use and into solutions, all these technologies, knowing how they overlap and how they can work together is important. So one of the things that we're going to be highlighting in this event is a better together model. So we want to highlight and showcase the Power Platform, but for those sessions that are able to show how those Power Platform products work with other Microsoft 365 products, such as Teams and Viva and SharePoint and Graph, etc., those are going to be fantastic showcases because they're really real world solutions that are going into production to make better life opportunities for the users.
That's fantastic.
So, I'm kind of curious. I've heard this better together phrasing a little bit in the past. Can you dive a little bit more into that? And I think it's taking sort of the two, like the Power Platform plus like the rest of the M365 ecosystem and sort of, making a spider web between them, but I don't know. Can you give some examples on that, or like what the end goal of the better together marketing is?
Yeah, sure. You've probably heard them coupled with certain technologies in the past, whoever may be heading up that product or that technology. Here, it's really a broader scope, but mixing the technologies together. So how can Microsoft Lists and Power Automate work together? How can SharePoint and Power Apps work together? How can Power BI provide coverage and information about all those things together? So while we tend to focus on areas of passion, I really love Power Automate. I can create a flow that can do amazing things, or I really love Power Apps, low code. I can create a solution that is going to do something super, super cool. Putting that into use for what real world scenarios are going to actually get value out of is a broader story. It's a greater story. And it gives us the ability to showcase to everyone, really, whether they're management, IT, whether they're developers, whether they're business users, whatever the case may be. It's important to know how all these things work together because, I mean, put your hand up if you feel like trying to keep up with the technology is difficult, right? I'm going to put 2 up, right? Yeah, all of us. I think the cat put its paw up in the other room. Is it?
On her face, actually, she just did that. You're actually right. Yeah.
Amazing, right?
Well
Even
done,
the felines know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so it's important to know how those work together. And sometimes it's hard if you're just entering a technology to understand where those overlapping circles are. So being able for us to say, hey, let's showcase how these technologies work together in a real world scenario, real world use case, is going to be powerful for anyone who's going to attend, like you said, whether they're C-level, whether they're divisional level, whether they're managements, administrators, whatever the case may be.
I tried. She's not being very agreeable. She says, "Let me go back."
I think that's great, though. David, I appreciate you diving into that because I do agree. I mean, I do think that by and large, particularly when you go to conferences, it can be overwhelming to think about, do I have to specialize in 9 different things before I can apply them meaningfully? So I do appreciate the focus on trying to highlight from the get-go how these things work better together, how they tie together in a way that makes sense, that, makes for a better story at the end of it. Are there any other ways that, from your perspective, this conference may be trying to do things differently to be more friendly? 'Cause I'm noticing a theme here of you trying to make this more accessible, which is great. Where else do you see the opportunity for improvement, and maybe potentially at this conference?
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like you teed me up there. I don't know how that works. So
He's good.
You go to these conferences and you dive right in typically to 60-minute full-on sessions that are going to show you how to do something very specific, sometimes quite deep into the product. Well, in all honesty, sometimes you just need to know a 10,000-foot introductory to the product or the technology. You go to the movies to see previews or trailers of other movies before you want to learn a little bit more, decide you're going to dive deeper into investing time into watching that movie, right? Well, why not have a technical trailer? So one of the things that we're introducing here that's going to be early in the conference is 25-minute sessions. These sessions, in 25 minutes, you're not going to go real deep, but you're going to provide a nice high level around the product, around the technologies. So what this is going to allow attendees to do is say, you know what, I'm going to get more sessions in my early hours of the conference, understanding what a high level of these technologies provide. And then I can take that newfound knowledge and I can decide where I'm going to invest the rest of my conference hours. So now I can look at a little bit of a broader spectrum at the beginning and say, okay, cool, I feel like I understand how all of these things are going to help me from a broad perspective, but one or two of them, I want to dive deeper in for the rest of the conference and learn a little bit more. And then of course there's workshops, and we're trying to be strategic about how the workshops go. So think about if you're going to come in and learn a little bit about Power Apps, but you're also going to spend some of those technical trailer moments learning about Power Automate, Power BI, some of these other topics as well. You're going to dive then deeper into Power Apps the rest of the session, conference hours. And then at the end, maybe you want to sign up for a workshop that shows how you can have governance and administration of that, because now you've got all these newfound knowledge and you've followed the path of getting the broader spectrum, then you've dove in a little bit more to get the details. Well, how do you implement that? So we're trying to be strategic around how those steps need to be taken in the real world, not just a mishmash of, okay, here's a bunch of information for you, but we actually want it to feel like you're learning along the way. Does that make sense?
No, but I appreciate you trying.
Okay, I appreciate it, no problem.
So I just want to say, not that my input or my review was requested, but I love the idea of the 25-minute sessions, because then you get that, you kind of said it in more words than I think I will here, but just here's a quick view of what you can do. Now go choose the deep dive that you want to get into in the breakout session, or go to a workshop, a full day workshop or half day workshop, and really get into the nitty gritty. Not enough conferences are doing that less than half hour kind of quick intro thing where you can kind of take some nuggets and then decide what part of that was really interesting to me. What can I get more out of in a deeper session? I think that's
great. It's like a choose your own adventure. I don't know, maybe I'm dating myself, but remember the old books, choose your own adventure. You had to turn to the page and stuff like that. But it's always it's useful, because when you go to these events, you kind of maybe are coming in brand new, or maybe you're transitioning. Maybe you worked with SharePoint and Teams for a long time, and you need to see how you can start investing in and adopting the usage of the Power Platform. It's unlikely that you're going to come directly and say, okay, I need to dive in directly to this for the whole conference. You're going to need to get a nice broad spectrum of understanding. Then you choose where you want to invest those hours.
Yeah, no, I love that. All right, so just to kind of give a big picture sort of closeout question here, and you can make this your magnum opus if you'd like to, but what excites you about Power Platform and your role specifically as Power Apps? So what excites you about that experience and the potential and how people are using it?
I mean, just the lower barrier of entry, right? So it is low code. There's an opportunity to point and click and create something that's of use. Not everything has to be enterprise worthy, right? Power Apps allows you. There's an area now for pro code that's getting a lot more expanded. And so I think the opportunity for anyone to get involved is exciting. The question is, once you start getting involved, what do you have to support you to do more? And what you want to do more in is going to vary from person to person. You might want to build enterprise-worthy apps. You may want to take what you've learned and start contributing to the community. You may want to become an MVP. You may want to get recognized and be celebrated for what you're doing. You may want to share it on a community call. Well, I feel like the excitement for me is opening doors in all of those areas for everyone, not just the best speakers, right? We're piloting something called the buddy system. If you've never presented on a call, it can be a little intimidating if it's live in front of hundreds of people. You're worried about maybe messing up on a demo or saying the wrong thing. So for example, we're going to provide a buddy system where we're going to pair someone up that's maybe a first-time presenter with an experienced presenter. They're going to practice, they're going to go through the presentation, they're going to go through the demo, and they're going to present together. And we've seen that model work already successfully to the point where someone provided a first-time presentation. It's now an MVP. So it works. And we need to provide that support. It's the right thing to do to ensure that everybody feels welcome. And that's really what excites me, is empowering others to do more within their areas of whatever it is they're passionate about.
No, Sean, I will not be your buddy.
I got you, Sean. I'll be your buddy.
no, I'm the bad guy. Damn, that didn't work out so well. All right.
I appreciate you sharing that.
That was so. I'm super excited about this conference. I think it's going to be great, and I really, really appreciate you coming on to talk about it. About yourself,
thanks for having me. Yeah,
all the cool stuff that you're working on, especially considering you're still brand new to the role, and you probably still have a lot just of overwhelming stuff coming at you.
Well,
so I really
appreciate
a lot of
moving pieces. Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Definitely, yeah. All right, cool.
That's Senior Program Manager at Microsoft for Power Apps, David Warner. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, man. Awesome.
So that was fun.
Yes.
Kind of a nice taste of what could be if you would just let me have my own show. NBC, come on. I thought it was really, really cool of David to offer us the keynote slot for the conference.
Nice. Yes. Yeah.
Obviously,
Heather backed him up. She messaged me too at the same time and said, yeah.
Well, that was really kind of them. Obviously, we'll have to think about it. We'll get back to you on that, David, but thank you. But with that, Matt, anything else?
No, I think that probably about does it. So, Sean, thanks so much for joining me today. Everybody else, thank you so much for watching. As always, a like and a subscribe is much appreciated. Leave a comment below to continue the discussion, and keep an eye out for the live episodes when they get posted. And you can drop questions into the chat ahead of time. And with that, I think I know I'm going to be traveling next week. Sean, are you good to do? If I did this like in a really weird place with maybe bad internet connection, would that be sufficient, or should we skip for the week?
Way to put me on the spot here.
I mean,
how about we talk about it offline here? Jesus. We'll get back to you. And then a quick note, all the links that David made mention of, including a link to the Microsoft Power Platform Conference, as well as the call for speakers, will be dropped into the show notes. If anybody has questions, as David mentioned, if you're thinking about putting in for it, Matt and I do this stuff all the time. Please don't hesitate to reach out with questions. We're happy to help too.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. No, cool. Matt, as always, thanks again.
Yeah, we'll see everybody.